Welcome to my channel. My name is Justin. If you are new here, thank you so much for clicking on this video. And if you are returning and already a member of the congregation, hey honey, welcome back for another video. I have some good news that you can use, so let's get started. Today's video is a bit heavy. I have been going back and forth with myself about recording this video. I wasn't gonna do it so early, with starting my channel, but it's so heavy on me, child. I gotta get it off me. And I've been going back and forth. Like I've been avoiding recording this video. I just need to do it because somebody needs to hear it. So, with that being said, I do want to share a little bit of my background and my story. Based on the title of the video, you already kind of understand what the story may be about. We're talking about grieving today. And so, just a little bit of a background about me. My mother passed away when I was 13. It was just she and I. She never had any more children. By the time I was 2, my father remarried, and he never had any other children, so I don't have any biological siblings. And I say biological because I do have sisters from a different mother. She was diagnosed with congestive heart failure when I was born. She was 21. And they told her that she wouldn't live to see me turn 5. So she lasted an extra, 8 years. She passed away on July 12, 1999. And it was just her and I in the house. And it was on a Monday. It's so crazy how you can remember like specific details about stuff like that. When traumatic things happen to you, it's like it kind of imprints all of those details in your mind. But that morning she had went to the bank, and it was a regular day, when it was happening. But of course, when you think back on stuff, it's like you see signs, but you weren't paying attention. But she went to the bank earlier that day. She came back home. She made us lunch. I remember we had hamburgers and steak fries. And the night before, the Sunday night, we had went crabbing. And so after we ate lunch, she put a pot of crabs on the stove. And I don't know if you know or if you've ever steamed crabs. A lot of people steam them in beer. And to this day, if anybody is steaming crabs in the house or steaming crab legs in beer, I cannot take the smell. The smell just makes me want to gag. But anyway, she sat down in the living room to watch TV. And she was watching Oprah. And I don't know if y'all remember, Oprah used to have these little shows where very talented little kids would be on her show. And so she sat down to watch Oprah. I went upstairs to curl my doll baby's hair, okay, because she needed a makeover. And everything was just going as normal. And my mom had called me downstairs. She was like, look at these kids on Oprah. They're so talented. They can sing, they can dance. You're gonna do that when you get older. And I was like, yeah, Ma, because as a little girl, I took dance class. I was in theater classes. So she was like, you're gonna do that when you get older. I'm like, yeah. So I went back upstairs, and a few minutes later, she called me back down. And I was like, okay. You all right? She was like, yeah, I just want to tell you that I love you, that's all. And when you get older, you're going to be something, you're going to do something with yourself. And I just want to let you know that I love you. And I was like, okay, Mom, I love you too. So I went back upstairs, and then a few minutes later, she called me again. Now, at this point, I was like, all right, now look, my baby doll, she need a makeover. I'm trying to do her hair now. What you want? So I went back downstairs, and she was crying. And I was like, Mom, what's wrong? And she was like, nothing. I just, I want you to know how much I love you and that you're very talented and you sing really well and you do, you're a really good person. You're going to do something with yourself when you get older, you're gonna be somebody. And I was like, well, yeah, Mom, but why are you crying? She was like, nothing. I want you to know that I love you. So I was like, I love you too, Mom. So I ended up staying downstairs and just sitting down in the living room with her and watching Oprah. She then got up and checked the pot on the stove. She came back to the living room and she was like, well, let me call your grandma real quick because I haven't talked to her today. So she called my grandma didn't answer, and so she went back in the kitchen to check on the crab pot, and I was still in the living room watching Oprah. And so then the phone rings and I answer it. It's my grandma calling back and she said, hey, y'all call me? And I said, yeah, my mom did. So I was like, Mom, grandma's on the phone. So she came out of the kitchen and motioned for me to go back to the kitchen to watch the pot while she was on the phone with my grandma. And I don't remember if she even got a chance to say anything to my grandma, but about a minute later, you know how you hear somebody fall down the stairs and it's just like boo, 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 boo. So she didn't fall down the stairs, but that's what it sounded like. And so I'm in the kitchen, I hear this loud just boo, 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 and stuff falling to the floor. You know, back then we had telephones that were still connected to the wall. I feel so old. But telephones connected to the wall. So those type of phones, if you hit them or drop them, they make a ding, like a dinging noise. So I heard that and a whole bunch of stuff just fall to the floor. So I paused in the kitchen and I'm like, I don't even know what I was thinking at that point. But I left out of the kitchen and when I got to the living room, she was on the floor. She had some type of liquid or something coming out of her mouth and coming out of her nose, and she was barely breathing. At this point, I am frantic. I'm panicking. I don't know what to do. I pick up the phone and I'm yelling to my grandma, she got stuff coming out of her mouth. What do I do? What do I do? I don't even know if my grandma said anything back to me because I didn't hear anything. So I just hung the phone up, dialed 911. I'm speaking to the dispatcher and she's like, hold on, you know, the paramedics are on the way. Don't hang up the phone. I'll stay on the phone with you. And I'm just like, what the F just happened? Like, I don't know. It's like an out of body experience. And all I could do was look at her lying on the floor and she was just barely breathing. It was getting slower and slower. Now, my mom's oldest sister and her husband had got there right before the paramedics did because apparently my grandma, I guess, had called her and told her to come over there. And my uncle picked me up off the couch because at this point, I'm just laying on the couch waiting for the paramedics to get there. So he picks me up off the couch, takes me into the kitchen. Mind you, the pot of crabs is still on. So I'm still smelling this crabs Old Bay beer smell. So while all of this is happening, the pot is still on in the kitchen. So I'm in the kitchen, he's like, you're fine, you gotta be okay, you're gonna be okay, you're fine, you're fine. And I'm just like, she can't leave me, she can't leave me. All I kept saying was, she can't leave me, she can't leave me. So the paramedics got her to the ambulance. My aunt and uncle and I got into my aunt's truck, and we're riding to the hospital. Now, my aunt is a truck driver and she don't give two flying farts about following the ambulance. And she was flying through every stoplight following the ambulance. On the way to the hospital, the driver stops the ambulance, gets out of the ambulance, walks over to our car and tells us that we cannot follow the ambulance. That moment was just out of control. So we finally got to the hospital. My aunt, uncle, and I, we walk in. They told me that they had her breathing, which part of me just didn't believe that. And then they put us into this small, like, little waiting room. And it was just us in the waiting room, and my grandma was there. It was another family friend that was there. After about 2 or 3 minutes, my grandmother had got out of her seat and turned around in front of the chair and knelt down to pray. And so when I saw her do that, I did that too, because I'm just like, you know, I don't know what else to do at this point. So the doctor finally comes in and he says, what happened? And so I told him everything that happened, and he says, well, we gave her potassium. We really tried to, you know, work on her. We did everything we possibly could, but she didn't make it. And as soon as he said that, like, my whole body, like, got hot. Like, my ears were starting to get real hot. I was getting real shaky. Like, you know how you sit on your foot or something for a long time and you can feel like it tingling, like pins prickling? Well, that's how my hands were starting to feel. My hands were starting to feel real prickly, and I just cried so hard. Like, I have never cried that hard before. I don't think I ever cried that hard since then. And like, that was just the worst day of my life. And before that point, to be honest with you, like, I never really thought that people died, because I never had nobody around me who had passed away. I'd never seen a dead body before. I had never been to a funeral. So all of this was just like a new concept to me. Like, I'm 13, you know, but I'm still a baby. So honestly, I just didn't, you know, I didn't know how real, like, death and stuff was until my mom passed away. And so when that happened, like, I was mad. I was mad. I was pissed off. Like, I just kept saying to myself, like, what the F just happened? Like, what the F just happened? And I just kept saying that to myself. And I was so mad. Like, I was mad at God. I was mad at the doctors. I was mad at the paramedics. I was mad at everybody. And I was pissed off at God because I couldn't understand, like, how he could have let that happen. Like, I grew up in church. My grandmother's a minister since I was little. And so I knew of God. So every piece of fury, frustration, just anger was pointed directly at God, because I could not understand how you could let me be with somebody for 13 whole years and then just snatch them away. Like, I couldn't grasp that concept. So the first thing I did was get mad. I was pissed off, because I mean, how could you let something like that happen? My grandma asked me if I wanted to go to counseling, and I told her no, which I think should not have been a decision that I made by myself as a 13-year-old. And then, you know, back then, therapy is not like it is today. Like, especially certain folks don't think you should go to therapy, that you should just, you know, pray it away and let God, which is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to talk to God, you're supposed to pray about it, but God puts people here for a purpose. Like, he puts people here to help you through life. So I think at 13, I made a decision for myself that I don't think I should have been left to make. I told her I didn't want to go to counseling. And so after that, I never talked about it. I never unpacked it. Nobody ever asked me if I was okay. And I would have my moments. I would cry and call my mom's older sister or my mom's younger sister and say that, you know, I miss my mom. But, you know, after that, that was it. But I never talked about it. I never expressed how I felt about it. I never relived it to the point that it would help me. So for 22 years, I just kept going. I just kept moving. And I never talked about it until about a year ago with the therapist that I have now. And she's my third therapist. Because at first I went to a therapist and it didn't work. And I was like, well, maybe therapy don't work for me. Like, this ain't working. And so somebody else was like, but you have to find the right therapist. You need therapy, but you need to find the right one. So I tried another one and I was like, for real, this not it. Like, therapy don't work for me. Maybe I'm too far gone or something, but it's not working. And somebody was just like, look, you need to get help. You need to grieve. You need to do this correctly, or you're never gonna, you know, be in the full mindset that you could be in, because you need to go to therapy. You need to grieve. And so I found one more therapist. I was like, if this don't work, then, I mean, maybe I'm gonna just be too far gone, okay? I done made it all this long time. But my therapist that I have now, shout out to Miss Cynthia. I love her so much. And to be honest with you, 23 years later, after my mom's death, I had finally grieved. And it was a gift that I never thought that I would receive. Because for the past 22 years, like, I've just been trying to find ways to get through life. And especially in my 20s, in my late teens and 20s, like, I found myself involved in activities that may not have been good for my health. And there were some good things. I had joined a step team the year after my mom passed away, and so that was an outlet for me. But I think the older I got, the worse it got. And I was just, trying to find myself, trying to find my way, trying to just keep moving forward with this hurt from the trauma that I experienced with my mom passing. Because I didn't have anybody to kind of like share it with, because my mother never had any more kids. And a lot of times you're not told to talk about your feelings. You're not really told to, express how you feel. And my family did the best they could. My grandma, my aunts, they took very good care of me. But I have always felt like I was by myself, and it wasn't because of my family. Like I said, my family is my greatest support system. They love me, they care about me. They made sure that my life was as normal as it could possibly be. But when something like that happens to you, it's detrimental to your lifestyle. It's detrimental to your brain. It's detrimental to how you think. And so I really needed to go to therapy and grieve, because from that day on, like, any situation, I always think about the worst. And I have these made up movies in my mind about what could happen and what might happen. And I try to make up things before they happen so I won't be so impacted if they do happen. I hope that makes sense. But all of the time, they never happen. But I feel like that way of coping with life is hard, it's heavy, it's difficult, because you're always living in fear, and you don't want to continue to live like that. But if you grieve properly, you will be able to have a better quality of life. And I want to tell you that grief is a gift. And it sounds so stupid when you say it out loud, but I want to tell you what grief is. Grief is this period of time that God gives you to fall apart. And people don't realize that there's a season of grieving. So you're in this space, something has happened that caused you pain, it caused you turmoil, it caused you to be upset and angry. But God gives you this point in time, this season called grieving, because He wants you to come to the end of yourself so He can show you that you can still have a good life, that your purpose is not yet fulfilled because you're still here. You still have people that you interact with. You still have people that might be going through the same thing as you, and they may need you, to build them up and show them how to get through that same situation. And so grieving for me it really was a gift, because I got a chance to cry. I got a chance to express how I felt about it, express that I was angry and that I was mad, and that I was mad for being mad. I didn't know that it was okay for you to be mad with God. But I found out that God is okay with you being mad with Him. He can handle it, okay? And if you're mad, be mad, but grieve. If you need to cry, cry. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't cry, or that crying is a sign of weakness, because they don't understand. And grieving doesn't have a time limit. Now, there's a difference between self-loathing and then there's grieving. And if you grieve correctly, you'll always get better. But there's no time limit on how long you can grieve somebody. If you let grief overtake you so much so that you no longer want to be here, then at that point, that's self-loathing. Self-loathing says, I don't deserve to be here. I don't deserve anything better. I don't deserve to feel better. That's self-loathing. But grieving is coming to the end of yourself so that God can step in and hold you up. That's what grieving is. And it's hurtful, it's tough, it's painful, it's uncomfortable, it's irritating. And I recently had someone pass away in my family last year, and I was mad at myself because I thought I could have handled it a lot better than I did. And to be honest with you, I was mad again. And I was mad at myself for being mad because, I know where this person is. I still talk to this person. They show up from time to time. But I was just mad because, why does life have to end in death? But it's a part of life. And when it happened, I was so devastated because, again, just like my mom, it happened out of nowhere. And so I took it really hard, y'all. I took it really hard. I'm gonna just be honest with y'all. I was smoking Black and Milds like it was cigarettes, okay? I would be in my garage with my Black and Mild and my margarita or my glass of Merlot with my Jesus music on, talking to God, God, I'm so sorry. I just kept apologizing, God, I'm sorry for doing it this way. I don't know what else to do. I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to talk to anybody. And I just kept saying, God, I'm so sorry for handling it the way I'm handling it, but I'm just mad. I'm upset. And he just kept saying, my grace is sufficient. My grace is sufficient for you. I have enough grace for that. And I was just like, God, I'm upset. He just kept saying, I have enough grace for that. I was every day in my garage with my little routine, and I'd be like, God, I'm sorry. I don't know what else to do. I'm just so hurt and upset. And he was just like, I have enough grace for that. Try again tomorrow. Try your best to do your best, but try again tomorrow. And so that's what I did for 2 or 3 months. And grieve. Go through the process. It hurts like hell. It's so hurtful. It will beat you down, but it's a gift, I promise. Because if you do it correctly, you will always get better. You will always get better. A lot of people say that it gets better with time. I think that is a total lie. Because whenever I think about my mom in the situation, I still feel those same emotions. But I feel like the only thing that happens is the further you are away from the event, the better you understand how to cope with it, if that makes any sense. So the situation itself, it's still a bad situation because you lost somebody. If you've ever lost your mother or lost your father or a grandparent or anybody that you love that you're close to, it's hurtful. It feels like crap. What if we had to go through life and something traumatic happened and we don't get the opportunity to grieve? What if we just had to move on and snap out of it the next second? That's not how God works. He gave us this season of grieving for a reason. And so it gives you the opportunity to be upset, to be mad, to not be okay. And it's okay to not be okay. And you may need to surround yourself with people who can build you up and hold you up during that time, because it's never good for you to isolate yourself when you're grieving. Because you're going to need somebody to say, hey, you're okay. Not it's okay, but you're okay. You're fine. Whatever you're doing, however you're coping, you're fine. You're okay. Grieving has honestly been the best thing that God has ever given me. And it's really a gift. It hurt like shit. Excuse me. Can I say that on YouTube? I'm sorry. But even just bringing all that stuff back up and talking about it and the smells and what happened and what I was doing and what I saw and what the day was like. Whew, having to relive that after 22 years was the most difficult thing besides that I had to do. But I'm telling you, it made me so better. It made me a better mother. It made me a better wife. It made me think differently. It made me understand better. It made me understand what my purpose is and where my light is supposed to shine in the world. And I have come in contact with so many people who may have lost their mother or in the process of losing their mother, and I can see it happening. And I'm always there to say what I wish somebody would have said to me when my mom had passed away. Grieve, cry, be mad, cuss, go smoke you something real fast. Like, don't let it be crack though. Don't smoke crack. I'm not condoning that, okay? But, I mean, do the best you can. Do the best you can and let God do the rest. Like, he'll show you that he can keep you. He'll show you that your life is still worth living while that person is not here right now. But I want you all to know that grieving is a gift, and it's something that you can use to your advantage. And I went back and forth this whole week about making this video, y'all. I was so exhausted because it was on me so heavy, and I know somebody needed to hear it and I needed to get it out. And so I hope that this video helped somebody today. I'm gonna be praying for you if you're grieving right now. And if you need for me to pray for you personally, you can DM me, message me on Facebook, email me, whatever you need to do to get in contact with me, and I'll respond to you. But I'm praying for you, and I hope that this video kind of gave you a little bit of clarity about grieving and that it's okay to not be okay. Surround yourself with people who can be there with you. They don't have to say anything. They don't have to do anything special, but just be there and do the best you can. And God's grace is sufficient to cover however it is that you grieve. And I pray that God will give you strength to get through this process. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it helped some of you today. And thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you all listening to my testimony. And I'll see y'all in another video. Bye.